Taking distance is an act that can completely change your life. Often we underestimate the power that stepping back has, moving away from people, places, or even patterns that don't do us good. However, what Carl Jung taught us is that in that space of separation, the deepest truths emerge, those we tend to ignore when we're trapped in routine. When you decide to take distance, you not only change your perspective, you also trigger an internal dialogue with your unconscious. Suddenly, things that once seemed invisible become clear, repressed emotions come to light, and you start to understand what you really need to live in alignment with yourself. But what happens with the people you distance yourself from? What do they really feel when you decide to choose yourself? In many cases, the reaction of those around you is a direct reflection of their own shadow. Jung explained that what we project onto others is nothing more than a mirror of what we carry inside. So when someone reacts with anger, sadness, or even indifference to your decision to step away, they're actually dealing with their own fears and insecurities. It's not so much that your absence hurts them, but what your absence forces them to confront within themselves. On the other hand, this process doesn't just affect those around you, it's also a call for you to explore your own shadows. By stepping away from the familiar, you face the void, that discomfort we often try to avoid. But here's the key. That void isn't something to fear. It's a sacred space where you can rediscover who you really are, beyond external expectations and conditioning. When you decide to let go, something inside you begins to heal. Maybe it's a relationship that seemed perfect but was quietly draining you emotionally. Or perhaps it's a group of people you always felt obligated to fit in with, even if it meant betraying parts of yourself. Carl Jung taught us that true freedom doesn't come from holding on, but from daring to let go. By letting go, you not only free others, you also free yourself. Think about this. Every time you decide to set boundaries, every time you choose to prioritize yourself, you're sending a powerful message to your unconscious. You're saying, I deserve something better. And when your unconscious receives this message, your reality begins to transform. The right people start appearing in your life. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach become possible. And above all, you reclaim that inner peace you might have forgotten existed. This doesn't mean the path is easy. There will be moments of doubt, moments when you'll wonder if you made the right choice. But remember, growth always comes with discomfort. Jung explained it this way. We can't become who we truly are without first facing our shadows. And often those shadows surface when we decide to distance ourselves from what keeps us trapped. When you take distance, people react in different ways. Some will try to blame you, making you feel like you're being selfish. Others might try to manipulate you into coming back. But here's the truth. Those reactions have nothing to do with you. They're a reflection of their own inability to deal with loss, to accept that your growth might mean the end of their comfort zone. The power of projection, what distance reveals. Carl Jung taught us that projection is one of the most common mechanisms of the unconscious. What we see in others, both what we admire and what we criticize, is nothing more than a reflection of ourselves. So when you take distance from someone, their reactions toward you become an invaluable opportunity to understand what aspects of yourself you've been avoiding. For example, if someone reacts with anger or rejection to your decision to step away, they might be projecting onto you their own fears of abandonment or feelings of inadequacy. This doesn't mean you should carry their pain, but it does invite you to reflect. What are you projecting onto them? What part of yourself are you afraid to recognize or face? Distance doesn't just expose the unconscious dynamics of those around you. It also acts as a mirror for yourself. It's in that space of separation where you can see more clearly which relationships were nourishing you and which were draining you. Jung firmly believed that our relationships aren't coincidences. Every person who enters our life does so to teach us something about ourselves, even if that lesson comes through pain. The act of stepping away can also spark a transformation in those left behind. Sometimes your decision to set boundaries can inspire others to reflect on their own actions and patterns. Though this isn't always the case, when it happens, it's a sign that the change you started doesn't just benefit you, but those around you too. The void, a space for transformation. The void that arises when you take distance can be terrifying. We're used to filling our lives with constant noise, with relationships that often distract us from our inner world. But Jung saw the void as fertile ground for growth. In his words, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. It's in that void where you have the chance to confront your shadows, to integrate those parts of yourself you've kept repressed. Maybe you realize you've been sacrificing your own desires to meet others' expectations. Or perhaps you discover that fear of rejection has led you to cling to relationships that no longer serve you. This process of self-exploration isn't comfortable, but it's essential. Every time you choose to look within instead of seeking answers outside, you're strengthening your connection to your authentic self. And that authenticity, according to Jung, is the key to a full and meaningful life. How relationships change when you take distance. When you decide to take distance, the dynamics of your relationships inevitably shift. People who were used to your constant presence might feel insecure or even threatened. This can show up as attempts to win you back, criticism of your decision, or apparent indifference. But as we mentioned before, these reactions are nothing more than a projection of their own psyche. This is where your inner strength comes in. You need to remember that your decision to step away isn't an act of selfishness, but of self-love. By prioritizing your well-being, you're taking a crucial step toward building healthier, more authentic relationships. Jung believed that the most meaningful relationships are those that inspire us to grow, not the ones that keep us in a state of complacency. Some people will adapt to this new balance and choose to grow with you. These relationships, though they might go through an adjustment period, become stronger and more authentic over time. Others, however, might drift away completely, and that's okay. As Jung said, separation is often the price of growth. Synchronicity. The universe responds to your authenticity. One of Jung's most fascinating ideas is the concept of synchronicity, the idea that seemingly unrelated events connect in a meaningful way when we're aligned with our authentic selves. When you take distance from what doesn't serve you, you open space for new opportunities and people to enter your life. This isn't a coincidence, it's the universe responding to your decision to prioritize your truth. Maybe you've noticed that after letting go of a toxic relationship, people who truly support and inspire you start to appear. Or perhaps after releasing a situation that drained you, you find clarity to pursue a dream you'd abandoned. These aren't mere strokes of luck, they're signs that you're on the right path. When you decide to take distance, the impact doesn't just happen in your external relationships, it also transforms your relationship with yourself. It's in those moments of separation that you begin to notice patterns you'd previously overlooked. Maybe you realize how you've allowed certain people or situations to consume your energy. Or perhaps you confront the fear of being alone, a fear that actually reflects a disconnection from your own being. Distance offers you the gift of introspection. It's not just about stepping away from others, but about drawing closer to yourself. Carl Jung spoke of the importance of this process, of how only by facing our shadows can we begin to understand who we really are. That space created by letting go allows the new to flourish, not just in your surroundings, but within you. It's possible that when you take distance, you'll face an initial discomfort, as if something is missing. But that feeling is nothing more than a reflection of your growth process. What used to fill your life, even if superficially, is no longer there, and now you have the chance to fill that void with something more authentic. It's not a quick or simple process, but it's deeply transformative. The reaction of others to your decision to step away can be an indicator of how they've been interacting with you. Some people might be understanding, even supportive of your new path, but others might resist, trying to keep you in the dynamic that's comfortable for them. These reactions aren't about you, they're about them. Their resistance reflects their inability to adapt to your growth. The clarity that comes from taking distance doesn't just help you understand others better, it also lets you rediscover your own boundaries. You start to notice which relationships lift you up and which ones drain you. This discernment is essential for building a life aligned with your purpose. It's not about judging others, but about making conscious choices about who you choose to keep close. However, the process of letting go can also bring moments of doubt. It's natural to wonder if you did the right thing, especially when the void feels too big or others' reactions are intense. But Jung reminds us that growth is never comfortable. It's in those moments of uncertainty where you most need to trust your intuition that inner voice that led you to take distance in the first place. As you move forward on this path, you start to notice subtle but significant changes in your life. People and opportunities that once seemed out of reach begin to appear. Synchronicities, those little moments that feel like coincidences, become more frequent. This isn't chance. It's a sign that you're aligned with your deepest essence. The universe responds to your authenticity, opening doors that once seemed closed. Still, this process requires courage. Choosing your authenticity over conformity isn't always easy, especially in a world that constantly pushes you to fit in. But the reward is invaluable. A life that reflects who you truly are, full of relationships and experiences that resonate with you on a deep level. On this path to authenticity, you start to notice how your perception of relationships changes. People who once seemed indispensable now appear in a new light. Maybe you discover that much of the connection was based on habits, expectations, or even a need for external validation. By taking distance, you can evaluate with clarity whether those relationships truly added something meaningful to your life or simply took up space that you can now fill with something more aligned with you. Some relationships survive this process, but others fade away. This can be painful at first, but over time you understand that stepping away doesn't always mean loss. Sometimes it means space for something more genuine to grow. Jung believed that the most authentic relationships aren't those held together by obligation or convenience, but those that inspire us to grow and evolve. You also start to notice how your energy changes. The emotional burdens you carried from maintaining certain connections begin to lift. That energy, once trapped in conflicts, worries, or trying to please others, is now free for you to use on things that truly matter. It's as if, by taking distance, you reclaim parts of yourself you'd lost in the process of trying to fit in. In this state of renewal, you realize you don't need as many things, or as many people, as you thought. Happiness becomes an ally, and you discover that true happiness isn't in accumulating, but in releasing. Carl Jung spoke of this as a return to essence, to who we really are when we strip away the masks and distractions. The void, which might initially seem terrifying, transforms into a space of creativity. Now you have the chance to build a life that reflects your values, your dreams, and your purpose. It's in this space where you can hear your intuition more clearly, that inner voice that was always there, but might have been drowned out by the noise of external expectations. This process doesn't just affect your relationship with yourself, it deeply impacts how you interact with the world. When you start living from your authenticity, the relationships you attract are different. They're no longer based on need or fear, but on mutual respect and a shared desire for growth. People who resonate with you begin to enter your life naturally, while those who aren't aligned with your path fade away effortlessly. Jung held that this process of individuation, as he called it, is one of the greatest achievements of human life. It's not about perfection or reaching an ideal, but about becoming who you truly are. It's a journey without a final destination, because life itself is a process of constant transformation. But every step you take toward your authenticity brings you closer to a sense of wholeness that no superficial relationship can offer. This path also teaches you to let go of control. By taking distance, you learn that you can't force others to change or make them understand your process. Everyone is on their own journey, and not everyone will be ready to walk with you. But that's okay, because your responsibility isn't to drag others along. It's to keep moving toward your truth. The transformation isn't always immediately obvious. You might go through periods of uncertainty without clear answers, but over time you start to see the fruits of this process. Your life feels lighter, more aligned. The relationships that remain are more meaningful, and the opportunities that come to you resonate with your deeper purpose. As you progress in this process, you realize that the act of taking distance doesn't just transform your inner world, it shifts your perception of the outer world too. You begin to see situations with greater clarity, free from the emotional distortions that once influenced your decisions. This doesn't mean you stop feeling, but that you're now able to observe your emotions without letting them control you. This level of awareness is exactly what Jung described as one of the pillars of individuation. Stepping away gives you the chance to redefine your priorities. You ask yourself, what's really important to me? Which relationships, activities, and goals are aligned with my truth? These questions might seem simple, but the answers are profound and transformative. Jung taught us that an authentic life isn't measured by external standards of success, but by the connection to our deepest selves. When you start living from this place of authenticity, the rewards are clear. The right people come into your life, and the experiences that truly enrich you appear almost magically. But this doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of your decision to let go of what doesn't serve you, to create space for what really matters. At this point, you begin to understand that distance isn't necessarily an act of separation, but an act of connection with yourself. By prioritizing your well-being, you're setting a standard for your life, one that invites others to respect and value you for who you truly are. This is a subtle but powerful shift because you're no longer willing to compromise your inner peace to please others. The relationships that remain after this process are those that stand the test of time and change. They're connections that don't depend on constant physical or emotional proximity, but on a deep mutual respect. Jung said that these relationships, rooted in authenticity, are the ones that truly enrich our lives. You don't need to strain to maintain them because they flow naturally, without expectations or conditions. Of course, there will be those who don't understand your decision. There will be people who accuse you of selfishness, who interpret your distance as rejection. But here's the truth. You're not obligated to explain your growth to those who aren't ready to understand it. Everyone is on their own path, and your responsibility is to yourself, not to others' expectations. Distance also teaches you the power of patience. Not everything resolves immediately, and not all answers come when you seek them. But as Jung said, the process of individuation isn't a destination, it's a journey. Every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your true self. And in this journey, even moments of uncertainty have a purpose. As you integrate this new way of living, you also realize that distance isn't always permanent. Some relationships that seem lost along the way might reconnect later, but under new terms. These reborn connections are based on a deeper mutual understanding, a respect that might not have existed before. But if they don't return, that's okay too, because you no longer depend on them to feel whole. This process doesn't just affect your personal relationships, it also impacts how you relate to your goals and dreams. When you decide to let go of what isn't aligned with you, you start to rediscover your passions, those things that truly inspire you and give you purpose. It's as if, by freeing yourself from unnecessary burdens, you reclaim the energy and clarity needed to pursue what you really want. That clarity that comes from stepping away leads you to redefine the meaning of success in your life. It's no longer about meeting external standards, but about living in coherence with your inner self. Carl Jung insisted that the purpose of life isn't to achieve superficial happiness, but to find a wholeness that comes from integrating all parts of your being, including those you once repressed or ignored. The act of taking distance becomes a symbol of your commitment to this deeper purpose. It's a constant reminder that your energy is sacred, and you're not willing to waste it on relationships, activities, or situations that don't contribute to your well-being. This decision to protect your energy isn't an act of selfishness, but a form of self-love, a love that, paradoxically, allows you to be more generous with others. When you're aligned with yourself, relationships no longer feel like a burden. Instead of trying to fit in or seek validation, you realize that the most valuable connections are those that let you be yourself. These relationships don't require constant effort to maintain because they flow naturally. They're authentic, based on acceptance and mutual respect. As you deepen this path, you also begin to notice patterns in your life that once went unnoticed. Maybe you realize you've been repeating the same mistakes in different relationships, or that certain toxic dynamics have persisted for years. Jung described this as part of the integration process, making the unconscious conscious. By taking distance, you have the chance to break these cycles and choose something different. The process of letting go isn't always linear. There will be moments when you feel nostalgia for what you left behind, especially if those people or situations played a big role in your life. But that nostalgia isn't a sign that you should go back. It's an opportunity to reflect on what you truly value and what you're willing to accept moving forward. At this point, you start to notice how your perception of time changes. Things that once seemed urgent no longer are. Now you understand that personal growth can't be rushed, that every stage has its own rhythm, and that even moments of apparent stagnation have a purpose. Jung said that the unconscious is constantly working, even when we're not aware of it. So even if you don't always see immediate results, you can trust that the process is unfolding. This journey also brings you to a deeper understanding of synchronicity. When you live in alignment with yourself, you start to notice how things seem to fall into place perfectly. The right people arrive at the right time, opportunities appear when you need them most, and the challenges you face seem designed to help you grow. This isn't coincidence. It's a sign that you're on the right path. Through this process, you discover that the greatest gift of taking distance isn't what you lose, but what you gain. A deeper connection with yourself, a life more aligned with your values, and a sense of inner peace that nothing external can replace. You start to understand that, though the path can be challenging, every step is worth it. The transformation you experience isn't just for you, it also affects those around you. When you choose to live from your authenticity, you inspire others to do the same. You don't have to say a word, your example is enough. And though not everyone will follow your path, those who do will find in you a source of inspiration and strength. At the end of this process, you realize that taking distance isn't about running away or abandoning. It's about reconnecting with what truly matters. It's an act of courage that lets you redefine your life from a place of authenticity and wholeness. The relationships that remain after this process are the ones meant to be, and the new connections that come do so from a space of respect and harmony. You discover that by letting go of what doesn't resonate with you, you're sending a powerful message to the universe. You're ready for something better. Carl Jung taught us that the journey to oneself is the most significant adventure we can undertake, a path that not only transforms our own life, but also impacts those around us. Your decision to live in alignment with yourself isn't just a personal act, it's a beacon that lights the way for others seeking the courage to do the same. Now I want to invite you to reflect. Which relationships, habits, or situations in your life no longer resonate with you? What would you gain by letting go of what drains you and making space for what truly matters? These questions have the power to transform your reality if you let yourself listen to them with honesty. If this message resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with someone you think needs to hear it. Together, we can bring this reflection to more people, creating a community that values authenticity and connection with our inner selves. Leave your comment below and share your thoughts. I'd love to know which part of this message touched your heart or what action you're willing to take to align with your truth. Subscribe if you haven't already and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next videos. Every interaction you make, sharing, commenting, or liking, is a powerful way to help this content reach more people who could benefit from it. You're part of this change, and together we can build a network of transformation and self-awareness. Thank you for being here, for opening yourself to this reflection, and for being part of this community. Remember, the change starts with you, and your decision to live from your authenticity can inspire others to do the same. See you in the next video. Until soon.